Good evening, everyone. I'm calling this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows that all members are present, and we do have Trustee Pieper calling in later on in the meeting.
She's on.
Oh, she's on. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep,
I ask you to
from
stand
Paris.
for, great, welcome. I ask that you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and for a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to go into the President's report. Good evening. I hope that everyone enjoyed their weekend, and if you had the opportunity to attend MyFest at Fireman's Park, I hope you had fun. I would like to share what has been going on since my last President's report update of 2 weeks ago. Of course, I have to say that this past Saturday at MyFest, I got dressed up in my very own lederhosen, and as the Burgermeister, I welcome everyone at the official opening ceremonies. I also spent time over the weekend volunteering for the Germantown Kiwanis. And it was nice to see trustees Rick Miller and trustee Bob Warren volunteering as well. This past Thursday, I attended the Washington County Law Enforcement Memorial Service, where we honored those who have died in line of duty and dedicated to those who live and serve in our community. This very moving event coincides with the National Police Week that is held annually in Washington, D.C., where we remember those that have died in the line of service. Nationwide this past year, we have had 304 law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. And for those that don't know, in Washington County, historically, we've had 3 police officers make the ultimate sacrifice. We also remembered one of our very own, Officer Robert D. Bax, for his service to the village of Germantown, where on March 21, 1981, he was struck and killed by a vehicle while he was struggling with a man he was attempting to arrest. Officer Bax made the ultimate sacrifice and died in the line of duty protecting our community. I want to thank trustees Bob Warren and trustees Rick Miller for attending as well and for being there to support Chief Pat Martin as he laid a wreath in honor of Officer Bax. I also attended a wonderful event at the newly constructed Baird Center in Milwaukee, representing our village at the top projects of 2024 award event. More construction services and Grave accepted a top project award for their work on our new Department of Public Works building. There's been a lot going on within the village operations. This past week, we welcomed 4 new police officers to the Germantown Police Department. We are very excited that they are here, and we want to thank them for their service. We also are saying goodbye to Support Service Manager Erin Earn. Erin is taking a new role with the City of West Allis to be their new city administrator. Though we are sad that she is leaving us, we are very happy for her and want to thank her for her 4 years of dedicated service to our community. Congratulations goes out to Officer Sean Martin on his retirement this past week after serving 29 years with the Germantown Police Department. Sean, thank you for keeping us safe over the years and for your outstanding service to our community. We wish you the very best. We want to also congratulate our Chief Deputy Clerk, Casey Miller, for her graduation this past week at the Class of 2025 Leadership Germantown ceremony, and for her involvement in the Germantown Veterans Memorial Project. Well done, Cassie, and please know that we are very proud of you. And special thanks to Trustee Jan Miller for attending that event as well. My weekly one-on-one meetings with our village administrator and village attorney continue. But this past week, I also met with our police and fire chiefs, where we chatted, among other things, about creating new metrics to measure. We also discussed critical incidents that occur within the community and their escalation and notification protocols to elected officials. I met with our Director of Public Works and toured the new DPW building, as well as touring Fire Station number 2 with Chief John Delane to look at their very serious capacity issues, which they do have. Pivoting over to the village board, I do have a couple updates. I had conversations with the chairs of the General Government and Finance Commission, Public Safety Commission, and the Economic Development Commission on matters that will soon be at their respective commissions. A very big thank you to my colleagues on the board at the May 5th Village Board meeting for saving approximately $850,000 in taxpayer money by removing the $1.1 million gross Nick property purchase costs out of the almost $10 million taxable general obligation promissory notes that was eventually approved. The $1.1 million was removed, thus saving the taxpayers $850,000 in interest payments over the life of a 20-year taxable promissory note. This was the right thing to do, and it was 100% taxpayer focused, and I want to thank you all for doing that. Second, and in the spirit of transparency, our village attorney sent a memorandum with respect to the open meeting law and using social media to all members of the village board, as well as all members on committees and commissions. Of course, the intent was not to infringe on a member's First Amendment right of free speech, but it was meant to address comments that were being made on social media specific to matters that were being discussed on the various boards, committees, and commissions. The risk, of course, is violating open meeting law by having walking quorums and the possibility of conflict of interest. Again, it's been a very busy couple of weeks since we last met. I'm looking forward to our meeting this evening as we work together to move Germantown forward. Thank you. We are now on to, Trustee Kaminsky, do you have anything to share?
Just that we have a Public Works meeting coming up in this room on June 4th, which is a Wednesday at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you. Trustee Rick Miller.
General Government and Finance met prior to this meeting and will meet again on June 16th, Monday, June 16th, 5:30.
Trustee McCutts.
Public Safety will meet in this room on Monday, June 2nd at 6 p.m.
Great. We're now on to item 6, citizen input. For those that want to come.
If there are other announcements, isn't this the time to say it?
I apologize. Anyone else like to speak tonight on other announcements?
Yes, I
of
would.
interest? The floor is yours.
Thank you. I would just like to say that I've been in Paris for the last 2 weeks and I'm here for work. And I was unable to attend those events that you called out the other trustees for attending. I would have attended had I not been out of the country. And that is all for now.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other trustees like to make a comment? Trustee Jan Miller.
Hi, this announcement is for elected officials, the board members, and I just wanted to remind you that I am we're all part of the Mid-Moraine Municipal Association, and the next dinner meeting is May 28th. That's next week, and it's going to be hosted by the Village of Jackson. So if you're available, the dinner will be held at the remodeled Jackson Community Center, and it holds the Village Hall, police, and fire departments. And the speakers are going to be Tony Heekert, and she's the Government Affairs Director, and Evan Miller, Government Affairs Specialist of the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. So it should be good. These will be discussions about state laws that are on the docket. It's all about state legislative update. So there is a dinner, and that you can coordinate that with our village clerk, Donna Ott, and she'll be able to take your reservation. So thanks. It starts at 6:30. It's Wednesday, May 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on matters of public interest? Okay, moving on to item 6, citizen input. If anybody would like to come forward tonight, please give your yellow slip. And also please keep your comments to about 3 minutes.
Okay. In reading I didn't have time to do some research, but on letter B, gross Nick properties, I remember when I came to a meeting and told the past board that I did research on this and called 2 of the top selling realtors in the state who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year selling businesses and land. And they said, tell your board the property's a dud, and they wouldn't buy it. And this board approved it. Okay, and now we're stuck with it. And that really is sad. It's sad that this property should be sold. Put a for sale sign on it and stop the nonsense with this. And Wisconsin Economic Development, see, how many people do you have to keep paying to tell you what to do with the property, okay? I was in an office today talking to people who deal with people coming in on appointments. And, you know, they just bought a home here and he's really upset when he heard about this village thing. He said, you know, everybody I talk to, nobody wants that. And this is proof, 68% of this village does not want what you're planning. And now we got to listen to more stuff tonight about this. And then Washington County Program Scope of Services. But again, how many people do you have to talk to and pay money to tell you what to do? Put a for sale sign on this property and see what happens, okay? You're going to spend thousands of dollars demolishing something, and maybe I haven't seen or heard anybody talking to any developers at all about anything. If you want me to call them, I'll call them. I know a lot of them. And from when I worked for Cadillac for 30 years, I've met a lot of important people who own big construction companies. And then on the solicitation, I talked to Chief Snow when he was here, and summer's when they all come out, and they do pose a problem. And I don't think that just saying that there's no law against this, they obstruct traffic, they were at McDonald's, they were stop sign people, walking in the streets, walking up to cars. There's issues that can be done. And I'm going to look further into the laws regarding that. And then regarding our attorney changing places, that's fine. But I think we should, as a board, this is my taxpayer money. I want to know, it should be monitored what's spent. And if he's going somewhere to improve his intelligence and get more information from people who are more educated in certain areas, that's fine. But if we got to pay for him asking people for advice and coming to us, then I think we should know about it. I think we should check everything that's going out of this budget. And it's very important because when we don't ask enough questions, stuff gets passed by real easy with this board. They don't ask the right questions that I would ask if I were involved in the stuff. And I'm used to it. I've done this all my life. So I'm just saying, wake up. Let's ask more questions about where this money's being spent. And that's all I'm asking. I am going to look into the legality of solicitors and everything. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak tonight? Good evening and welcome.
Can I turn this in afterwards? I haven't filled it out yet. Okay. Oh. Pardon? Yeah. I didn't understand that. Okay, never mind. Okay. Oh, one from Lynn. Okay, yes. That's what you're saying. Okay, yes, I can do that. All right. Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Okay, good evening. A few years ago, a former village board created a strategic plan with Paul Roebuck, who at the time was with the Washington County Extension Office. And I read that plan and there was a lot of good things in it. But then the board just moved away and stopped working with it. And I don't know why. And frequently, the Director of Community Development has stated recently that the 2050 plan is not being followed. And I don't know why that is either. But I think that one of the problems that we have as a group is that we're looking for the next shiny thing. We're not following plans, even though we do the work to make the plan. And we should have these plans. I understand that in the next couple of months, there's going to be a plan put together that is an outline of better sequencing of activities for planning. So those would cover things like the neighborhood meetings, the village center, which does need to be looked at again, gaps and inconsistencies in the 2050 plan. And I encourage this. I think we need that. But before we do anything, I would like this plan, this process plan, of what is going to happen to be publicized and presented to the residents before any work happens and before any contracts are signed. I think we should know, after all of these, the last few years of, we're going to do this, no, we're going to do that now, we're going to do this over here, that there needs to be a more holistic approach, and we should at least have a look at this, whatever this plan is going to be in the next couple of months. And then we can start working towards it. And then multiple things can happen at the same time. I would also ask that we tie this to some kind of financial strategy. I have not heard any kind of financial strategy or policy coming out of the village board in the 4 years I've been attending meetings. And I think we do need to have that in relation to development, in relationship to other alternative revenues that may or may not be out there and we might be able to work with or work towards. And this will all require more open-mindedness and cooperation with entities within the community. So a couple of other quick things. Grosnick, don't do anything until we know what the plan is for handling the village center meetings. There's no reason to do anything there. At the least, or at the most, put up a for sale sign and just leave it for now. Another thing is, I don't understand why we're still working with Copeland companies. The administrator or the director of community development could be handling the grant from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. So I think that's something that can be done. And it's also good to know about this county redevelopment program, but it's premature to do anything with it until we have the outline of what it is that we want to achieve. It's nice to know and keep that as a placeholder and one of the tools that we may need to use from a financial strategy standpoint when we are thinking about redevelopment, whether it's redeveloping the empty properties down on County Line Road or wherever. But there needs to be something a bit more organized than what we have seen in the past few years. The last thing I'll say is Trustee Kaminsky challenged people to run against her when she's running at the GGF meeting earlier. And that's cool. I think there should be more participation from people. And I'm glad to see that there are a number of people who come more frequently to the meetings. But I just want to say that the reason that the suggestion for the people on the committees, the standing committees, is because people don't feel like they are being represented or listened to. And that's a shame. And if we are being represented properly and we are being listened to, there wouldn't be a need for that. And I think that's why it's been brought forward. And those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anyone else have to come forward tonight?
He's got it.
Okay, thank you.
I got minutes too.
Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Scott Heffley, W159, and I'm 10514 Farm, Germantown. A couple comments tonight. First of all, I looked over, not that I know a lot about it, but PACER ratings for roads. Very exciting stuff, right? I didn't see any 1s and 2s on the list, which I was very happy to see because that means we're really in trouble there. There was some 3s and some 4s, but a lot of 6, 7, 10. And I think we're getting on top of the roads. I live not far from Division and drive it every day. It is, I don't know, the word horrific is a bad word, isn't it? The PACER rate on that's got to be -6 in certain areas, but hopefully we'll get that fixed. The Grosnick properties, as a financial guy, I was stunned is the word. I don't know if that's a good word, stunned, coming to meetings for 4 years, to find out that we never had to do bonding to pay off the Grosnick properties, that it didn't hurt our financials, it didn't hurt our financial health, it didn't hurt anything. We just took the money out of there and bought the Grosnick properties. I didn't agree with it, but you guys decided, fine. But we never needed to borrow for that. So why was it in the bonding? Why wasn't the trustees, why wasn't it explained to you guys that we didn't need to borrow for that? It was just thrown in there and like a big bonding issue. And it turns out that we didn't need to do it at all, that the 1.17 million or whatever was enough because Jerry Grosnick himself tried to sell those parcels for under 500,000 for about 20 years. Going all the way back, 200,000, 300,000. Now we paid $1 million. Maybe there's some value in that, but that thing was an apple orchard in the 40s, and it was a park People go look back in the historic history of Germantown. It was a park back at the turn of the century, an actual village park. Maybe it could be that again. I don't know. Something to look at. Until we, I saw the 4 options there. What should we do? Until we know if we want to do anything, I think we should wait. I probably was up here before saying sell it, but maybe we should wait to see if there is any plan for it. And as was mentioned in the background, it doesn't look like a TID is a great idea because we'll never get our money out of it. So probably not a good idea there. As far as the grant money that we're looking for, I have no idea why no one is qualified to write grants in this village. We should have somebody at Village Hall qualified to do that. The police department has a dedicated person, the fire department, they get grants every year to help out their budgets. Certainly we can do that here. And the community development area would be the area to do it in. They should know about grants. And you know what? We pay money to the EDWC, so they give us credits, right? Maybe we could use some of their expertise and credits to help us grant write. We're paying the money anyways, about 12 grand a year. Let's use those resources, up as we can from that standpoint. And I'm okay, very okay with having, workshops or revisiting what we're planning to do with the spaces, in the Village Center and those other areas. I can't think of, I serve on the Economic Development Commission, full disclaimer. That would be a place where you could run some stuff through that Economic Development Commission. We're looking to do economic development in the village. Why not let them take some, let Trustee Miller and her group, those are all residents, okay, get their input to advise the board, see what you guys want to do with it. That's my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak tonight? Good evening and welcome.
Sarah Larson, Butternut Road. First item, Grossnick joining the theme here. I think this is representative of why the village would be concerned about the Village Center project. Grossnick kind of embodies the concerns from every angle. It really probably should have been a parking lot with the environmental concerns and just how long it had been on the market for Grossnick and just the lack of planning. The village board is not equipped or wasn't equipped in terms of planning abilities and just walking the dog through the process of if you're going to acquire property, properly managing the process, to have spent the money and now sat on it and then thinking about wrapping it into borrowing and essentially then double paying for the property. That isn't prudent use of funds. So I guess sit on it and see what happens. In terms of item C with the idle sites redevelopment grant, I was looking at that, and when you read it, it sounds great that you can get up to $250,000, but you start reading that and you have to, the applicant has to be prepared to do a 3-to-1 match of dollars on whatever your award is. And I know we've established that the cost of tearing down those buildings is $75,000. I don't know if you've established what other costs of environmental. There are limitations on what this dollar amount can be used for. So what is your rate of return for whatever you're going to pay a grant writer to try and get this grant in the first place? Just things to consider when you're looking at that. My other item related to the Village Center and under this umbrella is Mr. Krecklow, if you could please respond to my email about Ms. Copeland's commission and what that difference is based on that estimated closing statement, I would appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak tonight? Good evening and welcome.
Doug Lman, W180N9881, Rivers Bend Circle West. At the previous village board meeting, President Soderberg, in an effort to lower the temperature in regards to the discourse of village politics, stated that comments that may be injurious to village personnel or other individuals will not be allowed. Now, I'm very confident that the president has the best intentions in instituting this policy. At the same time, I believe he has not considered many things that should be considered, and I'm going to try to elucidate those here tonight. Now, I want to share with you two instructive examples, and then I've got some brief closing comments. And for my first example, I'm going to stick right here, what happened right here in this room, an event some time ago, where this body here, was verbally assaulted by a person who I'm familiar with. And at the end of their frenetic comments, the only thing the board could possibly gather from it was that they weren't in favor of what was in front of the board then. What I knew then, and what the board couldn't know, is the person's schizophrenic. It's the only way they can express themselves. So are we going to take away a person's freedom of speech because they're schizophrenic? For my second example, I want to go to a place that's not unlike our village. In fact, it's only 93 miles away. Yet the event impacted the whole nation and has impacted the whole nation for approaching 50 years now. And I'm referring to the Supreme Court decision in Skokie versus the NSPA. Now, I'm going to use the term Nazi Party for NSPA because it's far simpler for me. But in brief, what happened there is that the Nazis wanted to demonstrate in Skokie. And Skokie denied their application for a permit. So the Nazis took them to court. In a state of Illinois court, the state of Illinois court said, yeah, we're going to go with Skokie. Nazis, go ahead, get out of here. So the Nazis left and they walked into the ACLU. The ACLU listened to them. Then ACLU had a few questions for them. The ACLU talked amongst themselves and they said, you know what, we're going to take your case on the basis of you've been denied your freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. The ACLU fought that all the way to the Supreme Court and prevailed. So here's the important part of this, part one. The Nazis got their permit and they never demonstrated. Why? Because it turns out a dozen or two Nazis don't want to demonstrate when they're going to be surrounded by 60,000 counter demonstrators organized by the Jewish community in Skokie, Illinois. Freedom of speech was preserved that day. And the voice of the people was heard loud and clear. It was very clear. Now, here's the other important part to this. For most of this case, the executive director of the ACLU was a man by the name of Ira Glasser, an ethnic Jew. Think of that. That man is personally associated with more people that have forcibly had numbers tattooed on their forearms, and he defended the Nazi Party. But he wasn't fighting for the Nazis. He was fighting for you guys. He was fighting for all those people. He was fighting for me, and he was fighting for you too. He was fighting for freedom of speech. This place here, this should be a battlefield of ideas. This isn't a place for tea and crumpets. In my opinion, polite society does not belong in here. We need contentious debate to come to conclusions that's going to benefit us without destroying our future. Curtailing speech here in this room is an attempt to avoid pain. And when you think about it, that's what Skokie tried to do. They tried to avoid pain of the mental, emotional, and spiritual kind. Through their stubbornness, their arrogance, and their hard-headedness, they ended up inducing a lot more pain. But their pain also guided them. It made them find their voice. And oh, this beautiful voice, beautiful voice. And the Constitution was preserved. Their pain guide our voice. We can learn from their pain. We don't have to make the same mistakes Skokie did. I have watched people come in here yelling and screaming at you. I have seen people begging you to the point of tears to please help them. I've seen the effects of qualified immunity, where the government essentially says, oh, random residents, here, have a fine. You need to feel that pain. You need to personally feel it. You need to embrace all aspects of that pain. You need to understand the pain your actions provoke, and the actions of employees of the village. Otherwise, you're just cloaking yourself in a protective layer, and ultimately your constituents aren't represented. Thank you very much for your attention and your time.
Thank you for coming. Would anybody else like to come forward tonight and speak? Good evening and welcome.
Yeah.
Good evening, Patasker, N97W14909 Burning Bush Court, and I appreciate the grace on the clock tonight because I'll need a little too. I sent a letter to the village board and planning commission members this weekend with some information that I got at the Wisconsin Housing Summit that I attended last week, put on by my association, the Wisconsin Realtors Association. And 5 minutes into the meeting, and I was wishing you all were there to hear the statistics and information that we were getting on housing in our state and the trends across the nation. So I did share some of the slides. If you go all the way down to the email, there are some slides there. I have the whole slide deck if you want them. But for the benefit of the public, I wanted to share this information. The panelists included Dr. Mark Epley, PhD from the Grass Camp Center of Real Estate at UW-Madison, professor from UWM, and then a local housing panel, which included Mayor of Kenosha, our county executive here, and the director of land use in Waukesha County. And at breakfast, I got to sit next to the mayor, and we had a great discussion about what was happening in Germantown and similar things that he sees in Kenosha. But I wanted to highlight the points that I heard and some you have heard many times, but some may be new to you. The speakers made several powerful points, including we've regulated ourselves out of the ability to build affordably. In Waukesha County, where they once averaged 3,500 new lots annually to be developed across 35 subdivisions, they're now seeing just 1,100 lots in 12 subdivisions a year. The demand is there, but the supply is not keeping up. The cost to build is staggering. A $350,000 home, which you cannot find new construction in Germantown for that price, comes with nearly $80,000 in permitting and regulatory fees. This was the one that really stuck with me, and it kind of really hits what you're looking at today in our village. They said, if you don't have places for people to live, your community won't thrive. That quote from the mayor of Kenosha really stuck with me. He shared how one area of his city really wants a grocery store closer. But without enough rooftops nearby to support it, the store would fail while the housing was coming to supply new shoppers to that store. And he said that housing does have to come first for the commerce to follow. Another point was the game has changed, that the planning used to be that you would attract the jobs and then build homes for all those workers. Today, they said we must build communities people want to live in, that the young people want to come to, that there are things there that they are interested in for activities, hobbies, shopping, restaurants, and then the jobs will follow because the employers want happy employees and they want to be where their employees want to live. And that's a complete reversal and it requires updated thinking and leadership. Public input is important, but strategic vision is critical. Listening sessions, this is what they said, listening sessions often produce hundreds of wide-ranging ideas, 90% of which will go nowhere. The balance is finding a way to value feedback while still leading with courage and clarity. Some of the most compelling stats that I heard were, and this one I think we all know, Wisconsin's property taxes are the 8th highest in the US. They said there was $525 million available in the state and federal support for workforce and senior housing, but only 16 million has been used to date, largely because of regulatory red tape. Young people are leaving communities like ours after college because they can't afford to return and raise families here. And a very interesting statistic I got at the end of last week was, while so much of the talk on housing focuses on millennials and Gen Z, according to the National Association of Realtors just last Friday, baby boomers now represented 42% of all home buyers last year and 53% of all home sellers, which makes me wonder if we are focusing on the right needs in our housing, in our community. My take on the Germantown market is that we have two markets. We have existing homes, resale. People have lived there, now they're selling them, and we have new construction. And I do have a paper I'm willing to share. I compared, the average shows that the average for sales in our community are 29 days on market. But the existing homes that are resold are only on the market 18 days. The new construction are on the market 85 days, so much longer. The big difference is the average sale price in 2024 in Germantown. Existing home sales averaged $486,282. New construction was $210,000 higher at $696,532. Right now, I think the cheapest I could find new construction is about $560,000 in Germantown. Our community does deserve thoughtful growth. Without it, we risk stagnation, missed opportunities, and rising individual tax bills. The costs of maintaining roads, safety services, and infrastructure continue to increase. If we don't grow our tax base with residential, commercial, and industrial development, we'll be left with fewer options and higher costs per household. Change is hard and some fear it. Let's grow Germantown in a smart, sustainable way and ensure it remains a vibrant, welcoming place for the next generation. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak?
I applaud you, Pat.
Would anybody else like to come forward and speak tonight? Anybody online that would like to speak tonight? No? Okay. Moving on to items on consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through E as presented.
Second.
Heard, was that you?
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please. Yeah, I'm sorry, trustee Jan Miller.
A little slow on the draw. I would like to pull item E for discussion. E is in Edward.
Okay, we could do that.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Excuse me, Trustee Cutts,
Aye.
Trustee Baum,
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Borst. Aye. Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Aye.
Trustee Pieper.
Aye.
Village President Soderberg.
Aye. That motion carries. We are now on to item E, 2025 Pacer Road Condition Report compiled by DPW engineering staff. Trustee Jan Miller.
Yes. I went through this in the Public Works and Highways, but I've had a couple of residents call me, so I'm just trying to verify this. The road condition of and it tells you exactly what you're going to work on. Resident that talked to me today said that in 2023, they were supposed to get the road done. Then it was postponed to 2025. And now they find out it was then it was going to be 2026. And now they find out that it's pushed out to 2028. So my question is for anyone that's looking at the detail in this, are these ratings and the dates set in stone when we pass this?
The ratings are in stone in that this version of the report, the 2025 report, once approved, will get submitted to WSDOT as we're required to do by the end of the year. And it will serve as the basis for the 2026 and likely the 2027 road program. The condition ratings along with traffic volumes are the two biggest factors in prioritizing roads. When we do this rating again in 2027, there'll be a reevaluation of the program, and a lot can happen in a couple of years. Some may wear or deteriorate excessively. Newer roads may, hold up very well. So every year and every 2 years, we take a bigger look and kind of reshuffle the deck in terms of what does this new rating look like and how does that affect the 10-year program that we've proposed?
And if my understanding is correct, to do this, you take actually a core out of the road? No?
No, it's primarily just a visual rating. So in this case, this year, it's the first time in several cycles, at least, our staff conducted the evaluation. There's a 1 to 10 scale with some criteria that's been created by WSDOT, and we use that scale to do a visual inspection of the road segment.
So this is just the roads, but what about, you said traffic? Where was that? I mean,
traffic isn't part of the PACER. I was just explaining how roads are prioritized.
Okay.
So if there's a very low volume road that has a lower rating, it's possible that a higher volume road with the same rating would appear for reconstruction before that lower volume road.
prioritize.
Yep.
Depending on the traffic. Okay, I see what you're saying. So if someone really wanted a relook at their road, would they, what would they do? Contact the village trustee and then push it off to you?
Well, I would assume that after tonight, with your approval, the ratings would be final for this cycle.
Right.
And then I offer, and we talk about it in Public Works all the time, that this is an annual process. And when you look at the 10-year road program, the next year is always the most certain year. And then the out years, if you're a resident that's paying very close attention to that, it is possible that your road kind of bounces back and forth a couple of years in terms of how far out it is. But that's based on new data coming in.
Okay, so this is a baseline.
Yeah, I mean, it's a snapshot in time. It's what the roads look like right now.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve item E on the consent agenda
I'll
as approved.
I'll second.
Discussion? Seeing none?
Yeah, me.
Trustee Bieber?
Yeah, I just want to say that the road plan has been mapped out for years. It's been what it has been. And if there are constituents that are complaining about their roads, you need to bring it to him, which I have done. and then it gets moved. I was told when I was trustee in 2019 that my roads were going to be redone in 2020. It is now 2025 and my roads still have not been redone. So the squeaky wheel gets the grease, per se. But I mean, the matter of discussion is the plan, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion?
You're welcome.
We don't need roll call on this, do we? We don't.
No.
No, there's no money involved.
No, we don't.
Yes, trustee Warren. There's no money though.
I would just like to weigh in on this PASER rating. The purpose of the PASER is to get rid of the squeaky wheel. And it's to rank everything on the same format per the WISDOT format so that there's some subjectivity to it, but as far as a squeaky wheel, that's not the case here at all. This gets you away from the squeaky wheel.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Yeah,
Need to know.
me, second bite at the apple, please.
Trustee Pieper?
Yeah. The squeaky wheel is that kids have been falling off of their bikes, off of their scooters, getting stitches in their chins, in their elbows, and everything else. So yeah, squeaky wheel, we have a 2-inch difference in our subdivision from the curb to the street. 2 inches. Imagine that. Now imagine riding your bike on that. Imagine being a new bike rider as a kid riding your bike on that. That is a squeaky wheel. I'm done seeing kids in my subdivision getting stitches in their chins, in their elbows, in their knees because of the streets.
Okay, thank you. I would just say that if there's any issues relative to our roads that present an immediate safety issue, reach out to your trustee, reach out to DPW so that we could take a look at that because situations that you mentioned, Trustee Pieper, if that is accurate, I'm not disputing your facts. We should be looking at that, have a mitigation plan in place. So further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Just wanted to clarify for the record that motion was made by trustee Baum. Who seconded that, please? Trustee Jay Miller? Thank you.
We don't have any unfinished business or public hearings. We're on to item 10, new business, item A.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to go out of order in respect to trustee Pieper being at 2 a.m. out there. I'd like to take item F and G first.
I think that's a great idea. We're on to item F.
Second. I'll second.
Discussion.
And I want to thank you all for that because it is now almost 3 a.m. here and I have to be up at 7.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That is opposed? That motion carries. Item F, an ordinance amending section 1.291 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend membership of the Plan Commission.
Sure. So before you is a proposed ordinance that makes a fairly simple change to the membership of the Plan Commission. The proposed ordinance in the packets, and I'll get to that in a moment, why I say in the packet. But in the packet, basically what it does is it changes the current membership of the Plan Commission, which is 7 members plus 1 ex officio member who is a representative of the school board to just a 7-member body with no ex officio members, but one of the citizen members would be a representative of the school board basically giving them a full vote on the Plan Commission. In kind of rough numbers, you're going from 5 citizen members to 4 citizen members, although typically, at least potentially, the school board representative would also be a citizen, but it would not be required as it's drafted in the packet. The committee, GGF, this evening took the matter up. They did make an amendment to the proposal. That amendment is that the school district member should be a resident. Basically, you're back up to that 5 residents as part of that. During the discussion, there was the question of, do any other communities have this? I hadn't looked at it at the time. I did a little quick research between the 2 meetings here. I can tell you that Chippewa Falls, Neenah, and Sun Prairie all are 3 examples of communities that make specific reference to school district representatives on their Plan Commission.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to, oh, wait a minute. Which item is it?
F, item F.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to amend the ordinance at section 1.29, paragraph 1 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the membership of the Plan Commission.
I'll second.
Thank you. Do we have discussion? Trustee Rick Miller.
Yes, I'd like to amend that motion as I did in general government and finance, that the school district member must be a citizen of Germantown, the village of Germantown.
I'll second that.
All right, and obviously, you know, my reason, if you saw GGF at all, I don't want someone from Richfield or Polk or whoever making decisions on Plan Commission for us. It should be a Germantown citizen. I'm okay with the school district membership. I think that's a decent idea.
Further discussion?
I'd like
Trustee
to,
Cutts.
my hand is raised, so when Trustee Cutts is done, please.
I just wanted to say that I'm in agreement with Trustee Miller. I'm fine with Germantown School District member being on the Plan Commission, but I do think they should be a resident of the village of Germantown also.
Great. Trustee Pieper, did you have a comment?
Exactly what Meg Cutt said. I believe that the Planning Commission should be somebody who lives here, 1. 2, I do believe that they should be on the school board. I firmly believe that the school board should have a voting place at the Planning Commission.
Great. Further discussion? I've got a question on, this came to us, GGF voted on an amended version of the resolution. Now, do we need to vote on the amended?
Yes, you would vote on the motion to amend first, and then assuming that passes, then it would be on the motion as amended.
Okay. Further discussion on the amended motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We're going back to the original resolution, now with the amended. We have a motion on that.
Here, you have a motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have discussion on that. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That unopposed. That motion carries. We're on to, what was the order again?
G.
G. An ordinance amending section 2.09 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the membership of the standing committees to include the appointment of a citizen member action.
Sure. So this ordinance makes effectively 4 or 5 changes, depending on how you count them, that all deal with the standing committees. The first change is that it just codifies what has been the longstanding practice here. The code says that it's a minimum of 3 members per standing committee. We've always had 4 since at least I've been the village attorney for 13 years. So we just say it's going to be 4 members. If that's what we do, we should just codify it that way. The second change is that it does add a citizen member to each one of the committees. The third change is that because the standing committees, the 3 of them, GGF, Public Works, and Public Safety, are all technically subcommittees of the village board. We want to continue to keep that to be village board centric. And so we define quorum to specifically be 3 trustees. So if you had, for example, 2 trustees and the citizen member, that would not be sufficient for a quorum. You would have to have 3 trustees. As part of that, the next change is just that each standing committee has certain things which they are authorized to be the final say on expenditures. So for example, at GGF this evening, the fireworks contract, which was below $25,000, was an example of something that the committee itself approved that does not then come to village board. This would basically prohibit that citizen member from voting on those things. The idea being that you want to try to avoid having an unelected person actually spending village dollars on the committees. And then the final change for those of you who were here last year, you'll recall when we changed the membership of Plan Commission last year, we also removed the ability to just kind of pick and choose a random trustee to fill in to create a quorum. We talked at that time about the reasons why I think that that's problematic, and there's a number of reasons. And we talked at that point that the next time we touch this particular section, we were going to be doing the same thing, which is what we've done here. Basically, we eliminate the ability for just a random trustee to fill in for a quorum. But certainly with online access to meetings, that's becoming rarer that we have not a full quorum unless there's vacancies. But that can be dealt with in other ways. So the other 2 last points, the vote at GGF was 1 in favor, 2 opposed. And then likewise, there was the question of, do other communities provide for this? I was aware that West Bend did. And as I look at some other communities here between the meetings, Cambridge, Sun Prairie, and Wanakee also all specifically provide for citizens to be on their standing committees as well. And just a couple examples.
Thank you. And this is coming to the village board without a positive recommendation. It did not go through great discussion at GGF, but it was voted down on a 2-to-1. And I'll entertain a motion so we get some discussion going.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion. Trustee Kaminsky.
I'll start. I'll try to repeat what I said at GGF. I am totally opposed to this. If you're elected to a position on the village board, you then become a member of at least 2 standing committees, which is what we're talking about here. There are 4, for example, at GGF, there are 4 village board members on that committee. Every standing committee, all 3 of them, have only village board members who then bring their decisions back to the village board and explain them. They are elected. Each of these people is elected. They are accountable to their constituents, to the village of Germantown, to everyone who lives here, because they have been elected and chosen. Now, if somebody else wants to get on these boards, they can be elected. They can oppose us. I welcome that. And that is the way your voice is heard at the dais here. Not because you want to squeeze yourself onto a committee and have a voting position. I'm totally opposed to that. It's, to me, democracy says you get elected, you then can vote on issues. It was brought up at GGF that Congress doesn't do things like this. I mean, our president can't say, gee, I would like to have maybe this person also in Congress so he can vote on issues. Well, gee, that's called stacking the deck, which there's a lot of potential for that here. Who's going to choose this person to be on these committees that could, sway votes? Who's going to choose them? If the committee chose them, it might make sense. But if it's one person choosing that person, I would not go for it. There's been talk about putting a finance guy on the GGF committee. Okay, give us a choice of 3 finance guys, not just 1. And these people can also, citizens can come up here anytime as they have tonight and talk.
and give us their opinion, which we will take into account. It's sort of like advising us as to your thoughts. You don't need to be on a committee for that. So my point is, get elected. Since I think it was 24 or 25, when Germantown was first incorporated, I'm sure somebody came up with these ordinances for a good reason, and they haven't been changed since. And I don't see any reason to change them now.
Thank you. Further discussion? Trustee Baum.
I'll concur with Trustee Kaminsky. I won't support it. I think it's a terrible idea. At the earlier meeting, there was discussion about some things are voted on, some things are not. I have been before other communities' boards, and when those things come up, it is a catastrophe. I've been at a community where every trustee has a citizen member with them. That doubles the amount of conflict that comes up. It doubles the amount of voting that happens. And it just confuses everybody because they're trying to figure out who is voting, who's not voting. Is this a money issue? Is it not a money issue? Very convoluted and very, very problematic for those of us who are going before those boards. So I wouldn't support this at all.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Me.
Trustee Pieper.
Yes, President Soderberg, I feel like you have been biased from the beginning of your election. I feel like you have removed me from the chair of Economic Development Commission. I feel like you have removed me from, you didn't even realize that you couldn't have a trustee that wasn't on two committees because I've been outspoken against you. So the fact that you are making the recommendation to have a citizen placed on the planning commission is outstanding to me because you're doing this as your personal vendetta. And I am 100% opposed to it. And I will resign as trustee if you keep this up.
So you're against this motion?
Pretty much said that, didn't I?
Okay, thank you very much. Further discussion? Trustee Cutts.
I can see to the point of Trustee Kaminsky and Baum, how this could get confusing at meetings when there are some things that could be voted on, some that could not. It could raise a lot of problems. I guess I'm not really sure because I haven't had any experience in front of boards to see how this would work. I think the best way, because I think you could get some good insight from another person on there, would be that they're on as a non-voting member, and that would be a way I would approve it.
Thank you. Further discussion? Trustee Jan Miller.
I think that we're all the trustees here have been elected, and we're intelligent people. And I think this poses an opportunity to open up minds and thoughts. And if you have 4 people, it's an even number. I think having an odd number is much better. And we have, from time immemorial, the village president has put together a list of where the trustees, what committees they go on, their appointed members. All of the members on the senior advisory committee are appointed by the village president. So I don't think that this is way out there. We're all intelligent people. It's a change. It might open and give us some other ideas or expertise that not all of us have. And we should not be afraid of knowledge and expertise on these boards. It's a board. You still have to gain the majority. It's voting. And I really don't see the problem. We represent the village residents. We get input.
You're elected.
Why not get one of their experts here? I think it's a great idea, and I think we should give it a shot.
Thank you. Trustee Rick Miller.
Yeah, I was opposed to this at GGF and for several reasons. Number one, this is a diluted spot already. They can't vote on anything monetary when it comes to the committee approval. So anything that moves up the village board, yes. They aren't counted for the quorum. And the standing committees have three responsibilities, in my opinion. They make policy, they approve finances, and they award contracts. And I believe, like Trustee Kaminsky said, that that should be an elected official, and we should not dilute the election process. That's why we are voted, to make these decisions and to award these things and to make the changes that are necessary. We may be able to get some good insight from other people, and I'm not discounting that. I think that any type of feedback that we can get is great, but ultimately I think it should be our decision. I'm the one who brought up about Congress and about the Assembly and any other governing body. They don't have public citizens. It's elected officials that are making laws and approving monetary spending. So with that, I am going to amend the motion to remove the citizen member from the standing committees. I like the rest of it. I just want to remove the citizen member.
Second.
Second.
We have discussion. Going
I
on,
will take my second bite of the apple, and I will say that the president of the school board, Mr. Ewert, is a very respectable person. I hold him in the highest regard, and I think he should be a voting member of the planning commission. I completely agree with that. But when it comes to putting a citizen that was not elected on the board, I am highly against, because that was not voted on by the people.
thank you, but we're not putting a citizen on the board where there was a motion to put, or a resolution to put a citizen rep on the standing committees. That's not the village board.
The
So,
planning commission,
That's
a
done.
voting member of the planning
That was the
commission,
last
am I wrong?
yeah, we voted on that already. So I will just comment that we do have Tourism Commission. We have non-trustees voting on monetary recommendations coming to that committee. That does not come to this committee. And I know that's bound by state statute, not by municipal code, which we follow. It's not black and white, I understand that. But I kind of think that's somewhat hypocritical that you're saying that we've got people that don't vote on monetary matters, but in fact we do. I mean, we gave monies to MyFest. We gave monies to the memorial and other things, other considerations. So we're doing that today. Our village attorney mentioned that there's precedent at other municipalities on going down this path. So this is maybe unusual for us. There is nothing nefarious or political about this, quite frankly. It was just adding subject matter expertise to the standing committees that could add value. Very simple.
Do I still have the floor?
You sure do.
I do find it hypocritical that you promised me many things during your election when you decided to run for village president, and then came out and are doing the exact opposite of it and are punishing me for it. So yeah, you want to talk about being a hypocrite? There you go.
Thank you, Trustee Pieper. Do we have further? Trustee Baum.
Yes, the committee that you said does have voting members. As I understand it, those are not tax dollars that they're voting on. That is funding from the room tax.
Correct.
So that's not the residents' money, that's room tax. So that's a little different situation. So
Understood.
I'd say that
I agree.
one is an outlier in itself. But it really does come across as a political agenda to be doing this so early in your career. I just cannot support it.
Sure, thank you. And again, you know, I'm trying to do what I think is right for the village. Again, there's
Like
nothing that
removing me from all of my
there's
boards.
nothing nefarious there. I don't think it's political. I'm just trying to provide additional subject matter expertise to the commissions. Very simple. Similar to what we just
So
did
you
for the
feel
plan.
very
Similar
little
to what we
of
did for the
me.
plan committee. Trustee Pieper, you don't have the floor. Thank you. Similar to what we just did
Where's
for
your
the plan
gavel?
commission. So I don't have a gavel. Thank you. So a further discussion on the amended motion on removing the citizen represent from the standing committees. Further discussion on that. Trustee Borst.
Yes, I do feel like the citizens have a very valuable voice and they have subject matter expertise for the committees that they would potentially be appointed to. And I feel like being able to hear them at a committee level and their thoughts would be beneficial. I tend to agree with Trustee Cutts perhaps on them being a non-voting member. But at the same time, I also feel like there's the controls in place to ensure that they are voting as appropriate or a quorum is met.
Thank you. Further discussion. Trustee Jan Miller.
Just to add to Trustee Borst, yes, I think that anyone that gets put on as a standing committee would obviously have some expertise, and that's what we're really looking for. And the checks and balances are already in the standing committee because you have to have a majority vote. And GGF, we did not have, all of our votes did not come in unanimously. And so I think there are enough checks and balances. We're all grown-ups. We're all educated. We can handle this. I think we should go with it the way it's written.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Trustee Miller, how would you choose that person that you would put on each of these committees?
They would have to go through the application process, just like everyone else
Who would
on
choose them?
every other committee.
Who would choose them
The village president.
as opposed to the committee?
Yes.
Totally non-starter.
Well, this is
Not
how.
biased at all.
And I do believe the issue is political. I made that point also at GGF. I think
see.
everything begins with the letter A, apartments. That has started this political snowball going. And I'm so tired of the politics of this, that they've reached the level of changing committees and doing something as undemocratic as that. But be that as it may, I wanted to go on the record with that.
I don't believe it's undemocratic. If there are other municipalities that have added citizen members, they are taxpayers. They should know where their money's going. And if they have an expertise, they should, and if they come forward and offer to run, not to run for being chosen on a committee, because it's not a slam dunk. There are lots of people that may come up. And that's where you get the choice. So we have to be open and let the residents know that their voice is being heard. And if they want to be more of a partner within the village, why not? It's hard to get volunteers. And if they want to volunteer, if they fill out an application and they're passionate about a subject, let's listen to them.
Trustee Warren.
I'm dead set against this. I'm concerned with how this person would be selected. I'm also not concerned that you have to be on the committee to get your input. We have other venues and avenues for people to convey their concerns or their expertise to these various subcommittees. You don't have to be on the committee to convey that information to those who are on the committee. So I'm against this.
Trustee Baum?
Why one person? Why not two? Why not three? Why not let each of us pick a sidekick to come to these meetings with us, like another community does? One person is too many. Where do we stop? So I won't vote for it at all.
Further discussion?
Mr. President.
Yes.
Just in terms of the motion to amend that's before you, it just generally is to remove things, or remove the citizen member component of it, but to leave everything else. I just wanted to highlight what I think that means, at least in my mind, to make sure everybody's on board, so we know what we're voting on. So as we look at the ordinance, the provisions here in section 1 would not be required, and so we would not make those changes. The provision at the bottom here of section 2, we would retain. That's consistent with our practice and how we do it. When we move on to the next page, however, we would strike here the one citizen representative provision, but we would leave the 4 trustees over here. The quorum, we would probably just leave because it's the same at that point. As part of it, in D, we no longer need the language from the trustee representatives because they would all be trustee representatives. And then in the last section, we would still strike everything that's stricken, but we would not re-add new language. All of this at the bottom would be stricken as part of that as well.
Exactly what I said on my motion.
So can
So we're
Donna
voting on
repeat
the
the
amended
motion that we're
motion
voting
to
on,
remove-
please?
Pardon me? Trustee Pieper?
Can Donna repeat the motion that we're voting on currently?
Well, we're voting on the amended motion to remove the citizens rep, and then we're going to vote on the new resolution without the citizens rep in there, with what village attorney just mentioned.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're voting on the amended motion to remove the citizens rep. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Keep your hands up for, so you're opposed to removing the citizen appointment.
Correct.
And
Aye.
I have trustee Ketz, trustee Jan Miller, you're opposed.
I'm opposed.
Vice President Soderberg. And trustee Pieper, you're opposed to removing the
No,
citizen
I am
appointment.
for it. Aye.
Okay, so then I have opposed trustee Ketz, trustee Jan Miller, and village president Soderberg.
That motion passes.
And yeah.
So that motion passes. Now we're voting on the original, we're voting on the amended resolution that the village attorney just mentioned that includes the citizen rep not being included, but everything else. We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Thank you. We have 2. That motion passes. Was there anything else that trustee Baum that we wanted to do?
No.
Trustee Pieper? Okay, thank you.
I'd like to thank trustee Pieper for getting up in the middle of the night to participate. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you, trustee
Yeah,
Pieper.
no problem. It's 3:19 in the morning and I'm going to go to sleep right now because I have to be up very early for work.
Thank you. We're now on to item A, presentation of awards received by the Department of Public Works Building Project.
Thank you.
Village Administrator.
All right, thank you. Just wanted to provide an update to the village board and to the residents. As you're all aware, last fall, we completed construction of the new Department of Public Works building, which was a major investment and project for the village. And we've received several items of recognition for the success of that project that I wanted to share this evening. There were 3 awards in particular. We received from the Wisconsin chapter of the American Public Works Association, the Project of the Year award for excellence in delivering and completing that construction project. We received from the Business Journal, as part of their annual awards ceremony, the Public Sector New Construction Project of the Year award, and a recognition from the Business Journal. And then finally, from the Daily Reporter, we received a top project award from 2024 for the Public Works building. And I think it's, recognition is always nice, and these will be awards that will be displaying down at the Public Works facility itself, and it's always appreciated. But I do think it is something that's important for the residents to hear as well, that on big, complicated things that need to get done, the village board and the village staff are capable of doing those things and successfully completing those projects. So this is a facility, for those of you who may not have had a chance to see it yet, I encourage you to talk with our Public Works Director and get a tour. We were in the last Public Works facility for 70 years. I think we'll beat that with this facility, and it's going to meet the needs of the Germantown residents for years to come. So thank you for all the support through this and for your leadership and guidance as we've gone through the project.
Questions, comments? Trustee Warren.
It's all great. And the permanent location for these award plaques will be in the conference room I would propose that you put them here where the residents can see this. What resident is going to be in a conference room at the Public Works facility? So I would just suggest.
That's a good suggestion. I'm open to feedback, or we could, for the next year, maybe we could keep them here in Village Hall and display them here and then move them down there as on a permanent basis. It's a good suggestion.
Trustee Baum.
Yeah, Steve, I'd like to express my appreciation for your leadership in this project. It was invaluable, and the financial dances that you had to do with the TIFs and the cost of construction and all that stuff was just incredible. I appreciate everything you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Kaminsky.
I'll second that. I mean, this is about, 8 years in the making? It was in the process of going through Public Works, not without conflict, not without pushback. And it was something they really needed to get done, and we got it done. Thank you very much.
Trustee Rick Miller.
I didn't skip anybody, did I? I just want to share a story. So yesterday when I was attending Bar at My Fest, a lady came up and started talking to me. And she talked about Public Works, and I said, have you been there? And she started tearing up and said, I can't go back. She said, that was my property. She said, I lived there. I took care of my parents there. And she said, I can't come back. But we do want to do some type of memory, a memorial, like a park bench or something like that. So I hope she reaches out and that we do that. But there's a lot of emotions when it comes to this stuff, and we got to remember that.
Further comments? I will just like to say that when I was going downtown to represent the village on accepting one of the awards, I reached out to Matt and I had a tour, and I've never been there. And it truly is a work of art. It's a beautiful building. It's well designed. So I went to the award ceremony at Baird Center, and I was at the table with Grafe and More Construction Services. And I'll just have to say that they mentioned you, I don't know how many times, that you were hands-on. And I don't know if you call it the owners meeting where you had meetings over talking about things. You dotted your I's, you crossed your T's. You did everything the right way, and the end result is what we have here today. So very, very good job. And I was very pleased. I was, again, great job. So.
Thank you. The one other thing that I would say is just when I think about this building, and I was down there last week for a meeting, and I noticed how well, I mean, it's been, 6 months that we've been in there now, and it looks great on the inside. It's organized, it's clean. The employees are taking care of it. They take a lot of pride in it. And, we made a conscious effort from the beginning of the project to try to involve the frontline employees in it. And I think when they go to work every day and they see the investment that the board, that the community made in their jobs, it affects the way that they approach their day-to-day activities. They see that and they know that what they do is important, that what they do is valued, and they take their jobs very seriously. And I think the community will benefit from that for years to come.
Agreed. Further discussion? Okay, moving on. Item B, update on the Grosnick properties purchased by the village during 2024, and this is discussion only.
All right, thank you. Just a quick update here on the Grosnick property. It's been close to a year now that since we've completed the acquisition of those 2 parcels. And I guess first, one of the things is just to clarify for the public that there were 2 parcels that we've purchased. And I think that's an important detail to notice. There's one parcel was approximately 5 acres of vacant land that's accessible from Main Street. The other was a small parcel with a 2-story office building that's accessible from Fond du Lac Avenue. That was the site of the former real estate company that worked out of there. And the board made the decision to purchase those because of the location of the 2 parcels, and that they worked well together, or they were needed together in order to, if there is additional development or when there is additional development on Main Street, that there is another access point onto Fond du Lac Avenue to relieve the congestion from the intersection of Main Street and Fond du Lac Avenue. So that was an important rationale. Since the time that the acquisition was made, the village has not actively marketed those parcels for development or for resale or anything at this point, pending some of the additional completion of some additional planning for the Village Center District. However, we have had meetings with the nearby Main Street businesses that we, have as part of our regular, annual operations, just touching base with businesses. There is a lot of interest in what might happen there from some of the Main Street businesses. We had some more in-depth and extended conversations with a Germantown business that was looking to expand and construct some office space to determine if it would be possible to fit that in there. That particular potential project did not come to fruition just because of some of a gap between basically what the cost would be for development and what that particular business was looking to pay for their new space. So looking forward, I think there are several options, and obviously I should have listed this as one option is to continue to wait to determine the outcome of the Village Center planning process and some of these other major projects that are potentially going on in the Village Center District and before making any decisions on how to proceed. But a few other options that are out there. One, the village could list the properties for sale as is and just determine, if there are any interested buyers. 2, the village could improve the properties by demolishing some existing buildings. There's some drainage issues. There are some relatively minor environmental contamination issues. And the village could construct the public roads with access to Fond du Lac Avenue to accomplish some of the long-term village goals, and then list the parcels for sale. Third option would be to make those types of improvements above But instead of selling the property, there's, what we hear from the businesses on Main Street is that there's a demand for additional parking. There have been some ideas floated in the past on these parcels for some additional green space. It was at one point in the past a park. There could be gathering places. I think at one point in the past, before I was with the village, there was a proposal to put a small concert venue up. Those are things that again could be considered in the long run with those parcels. And then the fourth option that I listed was that the village could issue an RFP soliciting redevelopment ideas from developers. The one thing I would suggest is that before an RFP would be issued, there'd be some consideration given to zoning and what types of uses would be acceptable there.
Thank you. Trustee Kaminsky.
Excuse me, you caught me in mid-yawn. Sorry. I think it's a really good update. And, when I go back and I think about how we got here, it was to protect that area and not let that become another parking lot for industry, shall we say. I think a lot's going to happen. Wait till we see what the Recreation Committee does about the land trade on the big park just down the street. I mean, this could all, you never know. I'm glad we're not, at least I wouldn't make any decisions right now. I think this could all be linked together, and depending upon what would happen downtown, Village Center, if anything, you never know how this could all just float together. I remember at one point I said, while we're waiting, why don't we turn it into a park? I don't think I was taken seriously, but we can always use more parkland, always use more recreational area, even if we're just putting some benches and things out there. I think it'd be kind of neat.
Further discussion. Trustee Warren.
No downside on waiting?
Not really. And I don't think that that's unusual for these types of situations. It's not uncommon for communities especially when they're trying to redevelop an area, when a parcel of land becomes available to purchase it and hold on to it. And sometimes that redevelopment happens within a few years. Sometimes it may be, a longer period of time. But other than the cost of the money, basically, that we paid for the property, there's no downside to holding on to it.
I have to admit, though, when I saw some of the options like parking lots and that, I don't think that was really our vision for this. I think we were looking towards something retail or restaurant, not to create parking spots for existing businesses on that corridor.
I would tend to agree that long-term, a parking lot would not be an option. I know that, again, that's something that isn't altogether unusual, that as a temporary basis, communities, sometimes when they purchase parcels like this, might temporarily put in some parking or something to alleviate some short-term needs until there's long-term development.
Trustee Baum.
So the question that Ms. Bednar asked is, why is nobody talking to developers? You want us talking to developers, or are those considered the backroom meetings that we're not supposed to have? In my business, I'm talking to people all the time, and I'm offering Germantown to them. Is that a backroom meeting? Is that a backroom deal? Or is that something you want me to continue doing?
I think we all should be ambassadors of the Village of Germantown and champion what we have here to move Germantown forward. If you've got ideas, I would run them through the village administrator and then through the plan commission, because we have a process for that.
Okay. Then I don't want to be accused of these backroom deals anymore.
And we do have item 4 there. We could issue RFP, which we could put it out there and see what the appetite is from developers. So, and I would just say that, at least I'm only one vote on the board here. But the downside to Trustee Warren is I don't think we should be in the land ownership business outside of parks and recs and so forth, because the goal is to get the property on the tax rolls so we get some tax revenue coming in. That's my opinion on that. Trustee Cutts.
I think we should just wait for now till we have more idea where we're going with Old Pilgrim Mequon Road. I don't think we should put any more money into doing improvements, putting tax money in, because we don't know what we're doing yet. I think concert venue's a no-go because Beer Stube already has an agreement with the neighbors about noise levels and times. So that would just, I think, be another issue. And we have the band shell at Fireman's Park right around the corner. One thing to throw in there when you're thinking about it is a resident approached me about that Wright Auto property that's sitting there empty. If that could somehow be brought in and the village could do something with that, so it wouldn't end up being a storage unit, but maybe become part of the park. So I'm just throwing that out there, but I just think we should wait until we know what we're doing with the TID 10 area to see how it can be incorporated. And at some point, if it's taking too long, yes, then I would say sell it instead of having it sit on the tax rolls.
Trustee Miller? Rick Miller, sorry.
Yeah, thanks. Couple questions that I can't recall is, I know there was some drainage issues, right? There's a drain tile that comes from Pilgrim Road, Fond du Lac area, something like that, and comes all the way over there.
There's yeah, village storm sewer that goes underneath the property that is having some issues and should be addressed.
Are these two parcels haven't been combined, right? They're still two separate parcels?
Correct.
And was there any brownfield areas in there? Was there anything to clean up?
There is some, the investigation did turn up that there is some low-level contamination, I think dating back to the apple orchard days. There probably was some use of pesticide that remains in some of the topsoil. Nothing that I think would prohibit any future development, but there are some issues there.
Got it. So there would be some cleanup before it would be ready for sale, or negotiating that into the contract at some point?
For that particular issue, the likely solution is probably that it's going to be capped, that there'll be either a building put over it or asphalt put over it.
Oh, I see. So it's not, it
probably
doesn't have
won't
to
get-
stay open or.
Correct. It probably won't get cleaned up in advance.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see the harm in waiting a little longer right now. We had somebody that was looking, and I guess that fell through and didn't quite work for them, but there may be something else that comes along. So I thought at first, yeah, maybe it'd be best if we get an RFP and see what, what the test the waters out there. And I'm not sure we're ready yet for that.
I can give you a non-official word of what I'm hearing. High density housing, more apartments, more residential on Main Street. That's what the people I'm talking to, yeah, we'll come. We'll do more apartments. That's what the developers are asking for.
Trustee Chad Miller.
Thank you. First of all, I really don't like the idea of putting a parking lot in there, because that's why we were supposed to have bought it, to defend ourselves from other big company coming in and making it a parking lot. So I think that's counterintuitive, or just, it doesn't make any sense. There is a property on there that was an apartment building or something like that. There's a structure that somebody wanted to rent. And my understanding from the director of DPW is that we recently fixed the furnace, and it sounds like it might be rentable. So could we just rent the facility that's there and get some revenue? And then I wouldn't do anything with it until there was a plan that connects these areas, and that we get neighborhood meetings, we get village residents to give their opinions on what would be good. Or better yet, ask the businesses down in that area what they think might go there. And maybe one of the businesses would like to use that property for something, maybe other than a parking lot. But if I remember correctly, there might be 5 acres there, but only half of it is buildable, because there is wetland, there's drainage, the sewer's leaking, or not the sewer, but the pipe, whatever. It needs some help. So let's wait, let's put a plan together and then execute. That's my idea.
If I could, a couple of clarifications. One, there is an issue with the furnace. I don't believe that we've repaired that yet. It is something that'll have to be addressed before winter. Either we'll have to repair the furnace or mothball the building, just, drain the pipes and look at options like that. But there hasn't been a repair to the furnace. The second thing, there's not a significant amount of wetlands on the 5 acres. There was an area that was identified because of the leaking from the storm sewer that was an issue, but it's not a wetland per se that would limit development. And we haven't advertised the building for rent. I think if there was, if somebody's listening and they're looking to rent it, it would be something that the village could definitely be open to. I think one of the challenges is that we don't really have a timeline that we can give people to say how long they could be in the building. And there oftentimes aren't people who are looking to rent a building if they don't know how long they can be there.
Further discussion?
Yep, I do feel like waiting is the best choice right now. I think that there's a lot of other potential developments that are still in the works and will be coming up, soon to be voted on and things like that. And depending on how those votes play out and what happens with those properties and land, I think once we know the answers to those questions, then we can take a look at this again and see how that would flow into a plan and create an overall better plan and development.
Further comments? Okay, well, thank you. I asked this to be put on the agenda because there was a lot of interest in this property. And I was briefed when I was first elected. And this is only, I think, 30 days on the job. And I think it's been a great discussion. Whatever happens, I think I agree with everyone here. Just press the pause button on this. I'm excited about the upcoming discussion on the Village Center and also down in the land swap. I'm excited about that and what that can mean to Main Street. I think there's a tremendous opportunity there. So further comments before we move on? Okay, thank you very much. We're now on to item C, Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Idle Sites Redevelopment Grant Application for the purpose of paying for the cost of demolition of the Flower Source buildings.
All right, thank you. This is an action item for this evening, and wanted to bring this to the board. It went through GGF last month, I believe it was, with a resolution that would formalize the village board support for an application for a grant of up to $250,000 from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation's Idle Site Redevelopment Grant Program. And that would provide assistance and funding to offset some of the costs related to demolition of buildings and cleanup on the parcels that were purchased by the village near the intersection of Mequon and Division Roads. So this is something where we did initially, with the initial contact with WETC, work with Copeland. And from this point forward, staff would take care of the applications. There's not a great deal of additional work that needs to be done in order to actually complete the application materials. And we always administer our own grants after we receive them. So this would support costs that I think the village is going to incur regardless of what decision the board makes going forward on how the land would be utilized.
Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of item C as presented.
Second, Trustee
Discussion.
Baum.
Trustee Baum. Do we have discussion? Trustee Jen Miller.
Yeah, I'd like to know why we're working with Bailey Copeland. Is this part of her contract? And do we still even have a contract with her?
Yes, it was part of the contract that was approved by the village board for her to seek grants on the village's behalf. And she made the initial contact with Wisconsin Economic Development Commission. on this, for this particular grant. I've been involved in all of the meetings and discussions since then. I've asked her to put her work on hold at this point while the village board goes through the process of determining how to move forward. But this was done under the contract that was approved by the board. And it is a part of the scope that was approved.
Then I would like to know what other items that we have approved, because it's been a long time since we've seen that contract going forward, because we're holding off on everything. So I don't understand why we did that. Also, you had presented a estimate for demolition of the flower source. And it was made out to Bailey Copeland, and I think it was $51,000 or $61,000, and that's it. And now we're going for a grant, which I'm all for, but it's up to $250,000. What's even the possibility of getting the $250,000, and what would we use it for?
Based on the conversations that we had with WEDC, I think our chances of getting grant funds are good. You're correct. The board did approve a contract once we have funding in place for demolition of the buildings, and that was a little over $50,000. That would be eligible, or a portion of that would be eligible for this particular grant. There may also be other cleanup that's necessary on the site as we continue to move forward. So the grant is for up to $250,000 as we're cleaning up the site, as we're demolishing buildings, as we're preparing it. We could use up to that dollar amount, but it's going to be based on what our actual expenses are.
Now, one of the questions I asked, or somebody asked early on, when we bought the property, why was that not taken off the purchase price? Why didn't we do it that way? So if the property eventually gets sold, then why would we demolish it now? Why can't the buyer demolish it?
Well, that is an option. I think one of the concerns is that the safety-related issues on the site. And DPW did go back and reboarded up the buildings. But we have had issues with people breaking into the buildings that are there. And there are safety concerns in there. One of the buildings has a 10-foot deep cistern in it that contains, that's filled up with rainwater. And if somebody broke into that and fell into that cistern, there could be a drowning. There have been incidents where police have had to respond to people breaking into the house that's onto the site and starting fires inside the house. And then there are several old dilapidated greenhouses which have, glass ceilings, which I'm terrified of the thought of a kid going in there throwing rocks at the glass ceilings and having a large pane of glass fall and seriously injure someone.
I heard of these incidents, but since we've boarded it up, have there been any subsequent incidents?
I haven't talked with the police department in the last couple of weeks about it, and I drive in there on a fairly regular basis to see if I can see any indications. And no, I think since we reboarded it, it looks like it's fairly secure to me, but it only takes once.
Right.
I will say that it is an eyesore. I wear the risk management hat at my company, and it's all about managing risk. We could transfer the risk over to insurance, which we have. But we're having a conversation now about foreseeability. And if some kiddo gets in there, throws rocks at the glass and something happens, well, we own that. And I have no problem with using grant dollars. In fact, at the last village board meeting, I believe we approved $100,000 in the promissory note for demolition as well. And yes, we could wait until we could sell it, but this conversation is going to go over the next couple months in terms of what path we want to go down for the village center. By demoing it, it'll make it more attractive to any would-be buyer. It's an eyesore today, so.
So if we have if we have already dedicated the $100,000 worth of borrowing, then what are we using this fund for?
This would reduce what, the amount of that $100,000 that we would need. There would be some matching funds that we would have to pay. So that would come out of the $100,000. And this would offset a significant portion of that.
Trustee Kaminsky.
What is the timing on a grant like this? Does anybody know?
This is the next major step. The impression we got from the DNR and the meeting we were in, and this was a month or so ago that we had this conversation, so I apologize if I don't get it exactly right, is that it's a staff level approval. So once we get the resolution approved and the application in, it should be turned around in a matter of a few weeks.
Okay. And we couldn't use it retroactively, like use our own money now and then.
No,
No.
they want the application in before we actually.
Well, I do it really quick. I agree with you. I agree with our village president. It's an eyesore. And it's our responsibility to make our village look good. It's going to have to be done sooner or later anyway. I would move forward with it as quickly as I could.
Trustee Warren.
So speaking of moving forward quickly, do we have a demo contractor in the wings? I mean, have we selected somebody and said as soon as we figure out the monetary issue, we want you out there the next day?
We do. We did go out and get several quotes, and the board did approve a contract for a demolition contractor a couple of months ago.
I think I was there then.
I think you were.
And does that include abandoning the wells? Part of it?
Yes.
Clearing the site, basically, the whole site.
Yeah. Abandoning the wells was a part of that.
But not all the environmental cleanup?
The environmental cleanup was not.
Trustee Boris, I think you had a question.
Oh, just another comment that I agree is kind of an eyesore to look at. And then also risk and insurance. I think that it is a high risk. If one kid, has an accident there and hurts themselves, it's a high risk for us since we own it. So I think being able to demo it and take that risk away would be helpful and beneficial.
Trustee Cutts.
Is this just the flower source or is Ascension going to be figured into this?
Ascension is not part of this.
Okay. And then is there any requirements with this grant? Because when I looked in the resolution, it says that the grant program was established to provide funds to implement redevelopment plans for commercial and idle sites. Right now, we don't know what we're going to do with the area. So would there be a time frame, like we have to have a plan or start doing something by a certain point to take the money?
No, and they're looking at, they're not concerned with what future uses are. The purpose of the state grant though is where there are, relatively, I don't want to say minor, but, not some of these huge environmental issues, but where there are some environmental issues that, a municipality can use the grant funds to clean up and basically get the property back on the market is what the goal of the state grant program is. So there's no restrictions or requirements on what we would be able to do with the land after utilizing the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Baum.
I just want to reiterate that the less work that the final developer has to do, the more valuable this property is. They will see it as a easy project to do, less hurdles. That's the reason why we're trying to get something approved, is to take away the hurdles for a developer. So if this can get us farther down the road, I think it's great.
Trustee Jan Miller.
One other question. It says that this program was established to provide funds for Wisconsin communities, implement redevelopment plans for commercial and idle sites that have been idle, abandoned, or underutilized for a period of at least 2 years. Now, we haven't had ownership for 2 years. Does it mean ownership or does it mean it was just sitting in the property? I mean, sitting in the village.
Means it was vacant and the flower source closed over 2 years ago.
Further discussion. Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We're on to item D, Washington County Site Redevelopment Program Scope of Services with Vanderwall and Associates for public engagement and site planning services.
All right, and thank you. So one more for me here. This is another grant opportunity related to the Mequon and Pilgrim Road area. One of the things that's been expressed here in the past month has been a desire to expand and enhance the public engagement process related to what the village may do going forward with the parcels that we purchased. We were able to identify some grant funding from Washington County. This is from their site redevelopment program. And by the way, this is a grant source of grant funds that we've utilized multiple times in the past, usually for smaller dollar amounts. And the site redevelopment program is kind of governed by a committee of the municipalities, which I sit on. So it is something that is a very ingrained into village processes for redevelopment projects. The way the county is structured, they do provide grant funding for planning and community engagement for sites that do have some contamination issues, as this site does. When grant funds are used, the county has a contract set up with, and actually there's an engineering firm called Stantec, and then a planning firm, Vanderwall and Associates. And if grant funds are used, then it has to be done through that county contract with those two, with one of those two entities. So working with the county staff and staff from Vanderwall, we asked them to put together a scope of services. They reviewed all of the work that the village had previously done. We had some extensive conversations with Vanderwall about where we were, how to potentially move forward, and they put together the scope of services that was attached in the packet. Basically, it includes a community engagement plan, the development of 3 concept alternatives, the development of content for project websites and social media that would be available to the public, the completion of 4 focus groups, additional public meeting and support materials, a broader community survey, and then a summary of public input and next steps memo. The one addition that staff pointed out when we went through the scope is that we should probably include 1 or 2 presentations to the Plan Commission as part of the process as well. So that would be an addition we would ask for, and I think they would comply with that. The total cost of the project as submitted was $41,650 under the site redevelopment program. The county would pay 80% of that, or $33,320, and the village would pay 20%, $8,330. So my recommendation or my request from the board would be to authorize me to apply for and accept the site redevelopment grant and enter into an agreement with Vanderwall at an amount not to exceed $50,000, with the village share not to exceed $12,500.
Thank you. Entertain a motion. Trustee Palm.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Trustee Warren, second that. Thank you. Discuss. Trustee Palm.
In general, I can be in favor of this, but we need to be very specific on this. The work done by Rinka essentially did a lot of this. It wasn't received well by the public. How do we understand what the public will and will not accept? What format are we going to do this in? What is it going to be? I've heard talk of we need to have roundtables in here. We need to have charrettes. That's what I hear the residents wanting. I'm not sure that this is what they're going to do. Is it or is not? I'd like to be very clear on that. The other aspect that I see with this is it is limited to the TID 10 location. It is not a broad city center, village center process. It is very finite. So you're getting a third look at somebody's ideas. You had Gray Wolves, you had Rinkas, and now you're going to get a third one. I'm pretty sure these guys are going to come back with multifamily housing. I understand what the residents are going to ask for. I heard the school board ask for it. We want, on the southern part, we want, what was it, 8 or 10 single-family homes. That's not going to work in this area. It's not going to work in that location. It's not going to work with what those residents want to sell their land for. It's just not going to happen. If we are not, one of the first questions these people are going to ask is, what are you going to accept here? What's the zoning that you want? We have to come to them with something. Are we going to accept multifamily? That's what we're kind of on this pause that the school board has given us on the zoning issues, the design criteria. We can't go down that road until we get this release, I guess, from the school board. When is that happening? This is not going to move forward until we get our answers there. The other issues that are on here, you can only work with 1 or 2 people. And I've worked with these companies before. I've seen what they do. They do some great stuff. But it's going to be a rehash of what we already have. So I'm concerned about what we're going to get out of it. And should this be opened up to a village center, entire business district, as opposed to just another rehash of the same property?
Trustee Warren.
I echo the same concerns as Trustee Baum. When I saw this, I was thinking probably same old, another survey. And we did say we're going to collect more information, but is this the information that we want to collect? I don't see how it's different, to be honest with you, unless they were, I think you had mentioned, Administrator Krecklow, that they saw what has been done before and supposedly tweaked their proposal to fill in the gaps or the data gaps, possibly to give us some more insight and more direction. I don't know. So I have that concern.
Yeah, we did share with them the results and the description of the process that the village has gone through already. And I think that the intention of the scope that they presented was not to start over, not to start from scratch, not to redo what had been done, but to, understanding that that there was, pushback, that there was not consensus in the community about moving forward under the proposal that had been developed under the previous process of putting together a process that would help to generate some consensus. And we talked about that a lot in the meetings that I had with the Vanderwall staff about, how do you suggest and how would you design a process that would help to generate, to come to a place of consensus, something that will work, something financially, logistically, and something that will address as many, of the concerns that have been raised as possible around an overall project. So that was why, they talked about like having some alternative concepts. I think one of the key parts that they included were these focus groups, where the idea was to get people from the community with varying ideas on how this could work or what it could look like around a table, and trying to see, what type of consensus might develop in those focus groups, and then rolling that out to the broader community. So that they have given some thought about not trying to redo what Rinka did, but instead taking that information, taking the additional feedback from the community, and then trying to generate some consensus. One other comment that I should just make is, and I think that the idea about, or the question about whether this should be done on a village center district wide, is a very good question. And if that would be the direction the board would want to go, we can't use these grant funds for that. The grant funds are specific to the site, as a brownfield site.
I would guess if we weren't getting this grant money, we wouldn't be doing this. Would be my guess.
That is I'm not going to guess. That's a question for the board.
But, I'm not going to turn down free money. Air quotes.
Yeah.
Trustee Cutts.
So my question's related to the focus groups that you just brought up for task 3. Because then after the focus groups, then they would come up with maybe 3 concepts that then would go out to a bigger group to look at. But under the focus groups, it said that they'll develop a list of discussion questions, prepare and send email invitations, track RSVPs, follow up by phone, and the village will provide a list of desired invitees and their contacts. So how is the village going to decide who's going to get invited to these task focus groups?
That would be something that I would be looking for some input from the village board on and from the plan commission. And I think, again, if the purpose of this process is to try to create some level of consensus about how to move forward, then what I would suggest is to try to create focus groups that have people with the varying opinions on the topic. Some people who are opposed to it, some people who are in favor of it, and to allow the consultants to facilitate a discussion and see if you get people from all different sides of this in the community in a room together and you can facilitate a discussion, can they come to an agreement on a way to move forward?
I think that's what would have to happen. The majority of people that have come up to me are against what was proposed. So I would like to hear from people who like it and who are for it. So I think if you could get a good mix, I think you could have a pretty good conversation and, like you said, maybe come to some kind of agreement.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Thank you. I'm lost. Okay, Steve. I feel like we did this all of last year. And we took those results, and what we clearly hear is we don't want apartments. You're going to go through all this, waste somebody else's money. This money can go somewhere maybe and do some good. We're going to come up with the same thing. And to me, I'm looking at the first sentence here. The village board has decided to temporarily place process for creating 10 for the Pilgrim and Mecklenburg area, like on hold. I don't remember voting on that either, actually. Whenever that might have come up, I must have missed that. I like our village president's idea at the last meeting to let the numbers do the talking. Do the analysis. Look at all the surrounding communities, see what apartments they have, see what we have. Like we talked about at our last meeting. Let's see what we have. Let's see what we need to serve as our real estate person. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. So adeptly educated us on here tonight and in our emails. What do we need in this community? We need to do that work. Public opinion is always going to be the same. We don't want those apartments, but maybe that's exactly what we need. And let the numbers and the analysis find that out. I want to see developers come in here and talk to us. Like, we can't afford to do this unless we have that. I need to hear that. I think everybody here needs to hear that to know how we can plan for the village. I want to hear developers tell us why we can't have stores and restaurants unless we have the roofs. That's an educational process for us to do. And it's not going to make any difference how many focus groups you have out here. The same people will keep coming to them. We know them, and they're going to keep coming. And the other ones who have more to do, different things to do, never show up for these meetings because they're not available. And they might support it. We don't know. But the reality is it's going to work or it's not going to work based on the roofs, based on the cost, based on what we need in this community. So do the analysis. I still want to see, taking out the senior housing, well, how many apartments do we have in this village? I want to look at why they developed what do they call it, Fox something in Thiensville? I want to know why they decided to do that. I'd like to have that person come in and give us a little lecture here. I want to do the analysis. I want these people that really make it happen come in and talk to us. What's possible? What isn't? That's where we're at. We know what the residents are going to say. The ones that show up are going to say no more apartments. I can't support spending more money on this.
Happy to bring that developer forward.
Well, I will just say that the residents did speak. They spoke during the election. 62% voted. And I've got the floor still. And I understand that, and then I share your concern. There's so much apathy in our community that people don't care until they care. They cared during the election. My concern is that we may be getting the same folks that are very passionate about the topic on either side showing up. And I'm concerned about that. But there's conversations that I'm having, or my thoughts are on that location. We need to do something different. We pressed the pause button. It didn't go to the village board. The joint review board was canceled, even because the numbers would not make sense. They make sense for 450 high density apartments, which the community didn't want. We know that. So what path should we go down? Is this the right thing to do to get more conversations going? I think it is. I mean, we've got the Ascension property that closes in June. Is there something different we could use for that property rather than demoing it for high density apartments? Could we put the could we put the police station there by adding additional $2 million to that building? By adding more square foot, a sally port, and additional amenities that they would need. Because I can't in my own right mind as a taxpayer recommend demoing a perfectly good building that we paid $5 million for. So those need to be part of the conversation in terms of what path we need to go down. Trustee Kaminsky.
Just as my second bite, you did mention the analysis. Where are we at with the apartment analysis? You said the numbers are all going to do the talking. I want to know where we're at with that in the future meeting here, not too distant, hopefully. Where we're at compared to our surrounding communities, taking out the senior housing. We're heavy on that. What do we need to do? I want to hear the Foxborough or Foxtown people come in here and tell us let's get the knowledge.
I agree.
I mean, residents, you don't know why you were elected. That's part of it. But people just maybe want to change. There's a lot of reasons that you hear, okay? But I'm just saying, we need information from the people that can do something for this community in the future. I mean, don't forget, everybody opposed the first shopping mall that was built here too. That you talk about the gentleman who was on the staff then, who owned the trucking company. Talk to him. Talk about what it's like to have to stand up to that, to develop a community the way it should be developed. I want to see the analysis for the apartments. I want to see what we need. I want to hear from more real estate people. I want to hear from developers. I want to hear what is doable and what isn't from all perspectives. Because we're going to have to live with whatever we create. And if we create nothing, or if we create the wrong thing, nobody's going to want to live here in 15 years.
I agree.
You know, we have to be careful, but we have to do something. And I think this is a start. And I just, please don't say the village board decided to temporarily pause, because we never voted on that.
Trustee Eric Miller.
We actually did last week when we approved the bond. That paused it.
Yeah, for a week or two.
I don't think there was a timeline on it. However, I feel like we're starting over, right? The Rinka stuff gave us a little bit of a lead, but now we're looking at this thing all over again. So I'm going to support this because I think we do have to have these focus groups in that. I like Trustee Cutts saying, let's get people on both sides of it. You know, I said I was for this thing all along. I'm not for 450 apartments. I don't think anybody was, but I can see a apartment component to this. I mentioned that I have kids in the village, grown kids in the village, and they're all for this village center. So I know people that are for this. You know people that are against it. Let's get them together. Let's get all the focus groups together and do this. And this is a start for that. And I think we need to do that because, like I said, we're starting over, right? The first concept is blown away. Now we got to go with Plan B, and let's see what comes out of it.
And by that time, hopefully, to Trustee Bob's point, is the district, school district will have their numbers come in and we'll know. But at the last Plan Commission meeting, I did go on record saying that we've got to work with the school district in terms of smart growth. We cannot let the school district be, I think I used the term, the pothole in the road on stopping that growth. We have to be very transparent in terms of if we do approve whatever development it is, the downside could be that the school district has to go out for a referendum. I think if we have that conversation, I think we'll be fine. They are fully aware of that. And they've got smart minds over there crunching numbers in terms of what they need to do. But the concern was, again, all the emotions during the election was the 450 apartments, among other things. The community didn't want that. We pressed the pause button. Partially because of the school district to get those numbers to come in. So we could determine what is the impact. To Trustee Kaminsky, I asked for the study on the apartments versus owner occupied. We've got that data. We've got the baseline. That's all that is. It's just a baseline in terms of how we rank. I've heard conversations about, do we want to have a, cap it at a certain percent? I'm leaning against doing that, quite frankly. I'm leaning toward having a guideline that this is where we're at. We want to maintain the culture of Germantown, that type of thing. We're still having those conversations. There's more that needs to be done based on, I believe the Plan Commission had some recommendations in terms of more data that we wanted. Once we gather that data, Trustee Kaminsky, we'll come back to this group. No, we'll come back to the Plan Commission, come full circle, and then I'll come to this group for a vote in terms of what the path forward. But I think this is the right thing to do at this point in time, based on all that's going on in our community. Further discussion. Trustee Borst.
I do agree with you that I feel like this is a good thing to do and to take another look at this. My question though is in the scope of services, and I want to make sure that people that were engaged in the last time are obviously engaged this time as well, but that we're reaching everybody that we want to reach, whether that's through surveys, focus groups, or social media. And so I just want to make sure that, within that scope of services, we're doing advertising on Facebook and social media, and we're putting out SurveyMonkey, surveys, and it's reaching people through social media, through mail, through stopping here to grab, a survey. So do you have the answer, or could you get the answer to like exactly their plan for advertising and reaching people?
Well, one of the deliverables would be that I think what you're talking about would be specifically addressed in the community engagement plan. But what I can say is that yes, we would do all of the things that you've just mentioned, and including when we did go through the first process, we tried to be pretty diligent with collecting like email addresses and things from people who came to meetings and participated, and we would definitely utilize those again. We would continue to use our Facebook and Instagram and next door pages to get information out. We also always encourage, and we try to get people that they can sign up for notifications on the village website, and we've always tried to get that information out. So yes, if we're going to do this, staff we'll work with Vanderwall to do everything we possibly can to get this information spread as broadly as we can.
Trustee Baum.
I just want to make everybody aware that when we did the 2050 plan, we did that. Rinka was trying to get people involved. The school board sent notices of all of our meetings to the entire school body. We ever fill this room 100%? No. Did we get any more than 200 responses? No. If you're expecting a 50% response from this village, you're never going to get anything like that. You're never going to get 1,000 people to respond. It is just a small group of people that are going to give us any feedback. We've seen it. What's that? Yeah, it's the same people. We've seen it. This is the third time now. This will be the fourth time that we're going to get a small group of people responding. So don't be expecting thousands of people coming back and giving us information.
Trustee Jan Miller.
I would like Mr. Krecklow to explain the first sentence. The way I'm reading it, it says exactly quote unquote, the village board has decided to temporarily place the process for creating TID 10 for the Pilgrim and Mequon Road area in order to obtain additional public input. And then in the Vanderwall process or their bid or RFP or whatever you want to call it, they have a picture of an area on Pilgrim and Mequon. So does that mean that you just told them that we do have a TID?
No, I did not tell them that we have a TID.
Why do we have the drawing? Is that just the area?
Yes.
I think that refers to the whole village center area.
Well, that, you can scroll down and see the area that they've got in their presentation on page, oops, one more.
Is the center parcels there?
104. Page 104. It's clearly one of the sketches that we've had for TID 10, and there have been multiple ones. There was another sketch for TID 10 that went.
Yeah.
We don't have a TID 10 yet.
The boundary that would be contemplated and goes north.
You have to turn your phone, mic.
This exhibit.
It's still off.
Like a
Put your mic on. There you go.
testing.
Testing, say it again.
So the exhibits I've seen that portray TID 10
Yes.
boundaries extend north of Mequon Road.
Yes.
But I think you're trying to make the argument that this is showing a TID 10 boundary in the Vanderwall exhibit.
Right.
It's not.
Well, it just, the way it's stated, it sounds to me that like we have a TID 10 and this is the boundary. Why would they?
We will clarify that with the consultant if the board votes to.
It
approve.
says
So
Village Center redevelopment.
we will clarify
site.
that we don't have a TID 10.
Yeah.
We heard some options from elders at our previous village board meeting in terms of what options, what paths we could go down
Right.
with this location. And one of them was to create a TID 10, to recrunch using the numbers that were presented for 450 high density apartments, or modify that, or do some other thing, other options there. The purpose of this conversation is to get the conversation going with the community, re-engage the community in terms of what do they want there. That's all we're talking about. We're not even talking about a TID right now. And if the language is in some type of contract, or we will make sure that we clarify that. So,
Okay, I appreciate that.
because only the plan commission can vote on that, then the village board and the joint review board. So,
Okay. I would like to offer economic development can help in some way. We'd be happy to do that.
by all means. And to Trustee Kaminsky's point, we will ensure that representatives from Foxtown are at these meetings so that the community has a breadth of what's available out there. I attended the, what was it called? The top projects presentation at Bears Center. And the projects that were up there that were getting awards were phenomenal. And I'm thinking, could that work here in Germantown? I'm thinking, yeah, with some tweaking. So I'm excited about where this discussion is going to lead us to.
Yeah. But I'm also concerned about the the financials, where we are right now as we're going into budgeting. I would like to know what are, because our, we don't have as much money in the, in our, general fund as we did before. I mean, accessible money.
Right, but I don't want to put the cart before, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We need to have this conversation. We committed this conversation with the community to find out what does the community want there. And then once we get that once we conclude that conversation, it'll come back to this body to determine what path we want to go down.
Well, it's about affordability too. Do the taxpayers want to pay for it? I really want that to be upfront. What is it going to cost?
Well, that will be part of the conversation in terms of the different options available. Trustee Cutts.
Like to call the question?
Second.
I don't think we need discussion for that, do we? No.
You don't.
So we're voting on the resolution.
Got to vote on the call.
Pardon? Sure.
So we're voting on the motion, which was by trustee Baum, to authorize the village administrator to apply for and accept a Washington County site redevelopment grant for public engagement and site planning services, and to enter into a contract for these services with Vanderwall and Associates for an amount to not exceed $50,000, with a village share to not exceed $12,500, and that was seconded by trustee Warren.
Point of order. I would love to move this along faster, but don't we have to vote on the call? The call to question.
If nobody's objecting, you can just proceed to the vote.
We're voting on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Roll call. Roll call.
There's an amount, so sorry.
Go for it. Sorry.
That's okay. Motion by trustee Warren. I'm sorry. It's been long. Roll call, trustee Warren.
No.
Trustee Cutts,
Aye.
trustee Baum, trustee Jan Miller,
No.
trustee Borst. Aye. Trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
trustee Kaminsky. Village President Soderberg.
Aye.
So that was 4 noes.
4-4, so
Motion fails.
motion fails. Okay. Moving on to item E, an ordinance amending section 12.08 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the regulations pertaining to direct sellers, transient merchants, and solicitors.
Move approval.
We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to item H, an ordinance amending section 1.3721 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the membership of the Senior Center Advisory Committee. Entertain a motion.
Move approval.
I'd like to make a motion to, for ordinance amending section 1.372 of the Germantown Municipal Code to amend the membership of the Senior Center Advisory Committee.
You want to do what?
I-
Trustee Kaminsky made the motion.
Second.
Okay. Do we have discussion?
Sorry.
No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item I, appointments to boards, commissions.
Goes to item number H for Senior Center Advisory.
Correct, yes.
Opposed for trustee Baum.
Moving on to item I, appointments to boards, commissions, and committees per attached spreadsheet. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval as presented.
Second.
We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Moving on to item J, transfer of general legal services engagement to Stafford Rosenbaum LLP. Entertain a motion.
Move approval as presented.
Do we have discussion? Trustee Rick Miller.
Just a quick mention that this came through GGF tonight with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. We're now on item K, administrators setting 2025 performance goals. The village board may enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and then make reconvene into open session to take such action as it deems appropriate.
Make a motion to go into closed session with the board and Administrator Krecklow.
Second.
We have discussion. Seeing none, I think this is roll call, isn't it?
Correct.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Cutts.
Aye.
Trustee Baum.
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Borst. Aye. Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky. Village President Sutterberg.
All right. We are in closed session at 9:30. Thank you for coming, everyone. Please drive home safe.
Ask for maybe a 5-minute recess to follow my signings.
Sure, 5 minutes. No, 5 minutes. No, I'll be in.